care about current affairs, it's on the OShow.
Welcome to the OShow, Canada's current affairs show with strong opinions. I'm your host, Laura Babcock, and we've got a favorite back on the pod this week because we've got a lot to talk about. This week has been nuts. We heard this week from, I love this part, from Ford's top campaign guy, that he dropped so many F-bombs about Poilievre and how he screwed up a 20-point lead and how it's campaign mismanagement or malpractice. But then he took it even further on CTV when he said, and I quote, "They're petrified of a Poilievre government." Petrified of Poilievre. If you want to just create a hashtag for the way the country feels about Poilievre's MAGA, then that's it. So I should have introduced our guest by now, but you all know he's Douglas Connors. He's with the True North Eager Beaver. And so, Douglas, I have you on because we've got to get to the truth about what's happening in this country.
Yep.
I just want to thank all of our viewers out there and all of our listeners to the pod. You've been sharing our stuff. Please subscribe. Let's get to 5,000 subs so we can keep the conversation going. So where do you want to start? Do you want to start with the implosion and infighting in conservative land? Where would you like to jump off this morning?
We can start there. First of all, hello, everyone. Thank you so much. And thank you, Laura, for welcoming me again. I always have a good time here, and I love chatting with you.
I love how calm and whispery you are and how loud and yelly I am.
It's yin and yang. We can start with the implosion. We were talking about Corey, and we've been talking about him a lot, of course, because this is not his first sortie in terms of making these types of allegations. And we played a clip this morning. I think it was 1 minute and 33 seconds, and there were 6 F-bombs in there. He's saying, if you like Ariana Grande and you've heard that song, Yes, and he's saying that shit with his chest.
Okay. Yeah.
It's a full-throated denunciation.
Yeah.
I think when I was here last time, I told people to expect this.
Yes, you did.
When we were looking at the polling, right? I said that there were 3 particular milestones. The first one was Conservatives slipping out of majority territory, which had already happened by the time we had chatted with each other. And then the 2 lines intersecting, showing the Liberals taking the lead, and then Liberals going into majority territory. And the Liberals going into majority territory happened just days before the election was actually called, which is what you're seeing from Pierre, a lot of this behavior. We've seen this twice in the campaign now, where Pierre has very rudely attempted to preempt Mark Carney on the day that he went to the Governor General. Pierre Poilievre launched his campaign at 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning before the writ. The Governor General had given the okay for the proclamation to be written to tell the Chief Electoral Officer to draw the writs for the election. That's unheard of. And that's usually done by somebody who feels that they're going to be drowned out and they feel that they need to set the tone for the campaign to be the first person that everybody's reacting to. Unfortunately, he did a terrible job on the launch, and that didn't work for him. And then the second attempt was the other pivot that he tried to do after Trump had announced, or IQ47, as I like to refer him as, announced more tariffs. And then he stood in front of that stage, went to Toronto and did that event in front of a whole bunch of people, where all of a sudden, we had noticed it before, but that Pierre changed his just for men for just a touch of gray, because he no longer had to look like younger and more fit than Trudeau, but older and more respectable like Carney.
You're so delightfully bitchy. You just slide these things in there.
just in there. And I got my genetic lottery card and I scratched it and it said you get to be fabulous. So
absolutely.
It's like, yeah, I won. Then he's sitting in front of the podium, and you're listening to his speech, and it's like, we can't control the president. We can only control. Wait a minute. Wasn't that Carney's line from the beginning? And then earlier in the campaign, we heard him say, Canada has given me everything. Wait a minute. Wasn't that Carney's line? Yes. And then we need to have a plan, then a plan to make a plan, and then we need a plan for the long term. That's my plan.
That one had me laughing out loud because I've written a lot of business strategies for clients over the years, and urgent response and interim plan, then long-term plan. That's like basic framework 101. That is not a plan. That reminds me more of Trump, right? About, we'll have a plan to have a plan, or we have concepts of a plan, or whatever the hell Poilievre is not talking about. He's got no ideas, obviously, but go on, Douglas.
It's not good. It's not good. And then just whole passages and concepts, right? The corridor for proof. Well, Mark Carney was talking about the premiers about that in his first meeting with them, those pre-approved corridors. We need to diversify our trade. Yeah, like Mark Carney has said, we need to deal with other. Yeah, like Mark Carney. So all of his plan, you have to remember when he delivered his plan, he made this big speech one day where he had like this 7-point plan. Every single element of that plan was something that was said first by someone else because he waited last to go. And he actually stood in front of the podium and lifted Mark Carney's hair, Mark Carney's lines, Mark Carney's speech pattern, and even his affect. So it was very creepy.
It is creepy. And, I think that, people have been saying, oh, don't say he's creepy, the ick factor with Poilievre, that's just blah, blah, whatever. No, actually, when Ford's guy lost it and dropped more F-bombs than I normally do on my pod, it's because of how badly Poilievre is doing with women. It's creepy. I said on this program, it was creepy when he brought up biological clocks for couples as part of an announcement on housing. Not necessary to bring up that dog whistle that makes women react like I reacted. And over 100,000 people liked the clip, right?
And then the Laura Stone thing?
What's up?
And then the Laura Stone thing?
Oh my God, yeah. So let's get to that. So so he's creepy when he brings up biological clocks, even if it's in the context of couples. It's like dog whistle language. We all know it. And then it's creepy when he generally talks down to women reporters. But then in the last week alone, there have been 2 incidences. One where a female reporter asked him from the pen, if you're not paying attention, folks, he's actually penning reporters like Trump does at rallies. And I've said to Canadian media, get out of that pen. You not put me in a fucking pen when I was a reporter. Get out of it now. Learn from the U.S. journalists who didn't. Stand up for yourself. But beyond that, she yells from the pen, about his lack of security clearance. And instead of answering, he calls her a protester, which is disgusting. And she fires back and says, no, I'm a reporter asking a question.
And he knows.
What's that?
He knows.
Of course he knows.
Judy Trent has a signature. Judy Trent has a signature voice, a signature way of asking questions. She usually asks 5 and 1, right? And he sees her many days, and there are no protesters because if you read the article about what happened at Petty Harbour, they don't allow anybody near the bus. They don't allow people to film. The conservative staffer has the microphone, puts it in front, takes it away. There's no follow-up questions. No, he knows it's Judy Trent. He knows it's not a protester, but he stood in front of the camera and tried to gaslight Canadians into believing that he was being like, he lies reflexively.
Would he have done it? Would he have done it with a guy reporter? I don't know. But you know what? His treatment of her and the media in general is disgusting, and Canadians need to know it's not normal to have to pre-screen questions. It's not normal to be 4 in a scrum. The gross thing I think you're referring to with reporter Laura Stone.
Oh God,
was that like Pierre does a rally with Harper, a popular Alberta former prime minister. They get a larger crowd than they'll get, say, probably anywhere else. Yeah, stop the presses.
Yeah, like you said, right? A whole bunch of people showed up for a conservative rally in Edmonton. Ooh.
Right. So, but the thing is, Poilievre claimed it was 15,000 people, and we'll get to the truth in a second, which is delicious. It just came out this morning. It's so good. I thought last night it was good enough to hear the Ford guy go after Poilievre and say we're petrified of Poilievre, but then this morning to see the crowd size thing is so good. Okay. So let me just build up to it. I'm so glad you're on today, Douglas. So Poilievre says to this female journalist, how big was my crowd size? And she's like, I don't know. There's different reports. You know how big crowd sizes are. If anyone knows, you know. You know the bigger crowd size.
Don't be shy. You can tell me how big it is. Huh? Certainly not your first one. Come on.
It was so ick. If I was part of Women Against Poilievre officially before, I sure as shit him after that disgusting crap. But the best part about it, after his whole tell me how big my crowd size is, a la Trump and a la ick.
My crowd size. Skippy air quotes.
I know, it's so big. Then he goes, Poilievre it turns out lied. They actually brought in experts and they said there were 1,532 or something at the rally, not 15,000, and that it physically wouldn't fit that 15,000. And then they showed an arena on like a hockey game or something, that 15,000 fans, what that looks like. So not only did he get all creepy about his crowd size with a female reporter, ick, but then he goes so far as to like inflate his crowd size by 10%.
As a gay man who once, before meeting my tender sweetie, did do the online dating thing, Pierre, as we say in our community, had an internet 6.
I'll let our audience figure that one out. But you know what? The reason why we're being so silly is because he's running a silly, ridiculous, embarrassing Trump wannabe, but sucking at it campaign. I mean, let's be real. The stuff with the journalists, I'm legitimately concerned. That's authoritarianism. That's garbage.
Yeah.
Talking about his crowd size is just gross. And the fact that he even lied and inflated it by 10%, I mean, we're laughing at him. We're ridiculing him because he's bringing it on. He's acting ridiculously. And then, Douglas, there's this crew out there with these fucking signs saying, do you believe the polls? Because he's losing so badly in the polls. And you know what? I'm glad his campaign disavowed any connection to this garbage. What's next? Stop the steal? Are we going to question the election results?
We're one step away.
Yeah, well, I'm glad Poilievre said no matter what, he'll accept the results. But that shouldn't even be a question in Canada.
Bingo.
And what did Carney say? Carney said, like, we're not bringing that nonsense into this country, right? Like, Carney knows what we all know what that is. We are watching Poilievre run the playbook from Trump from 2016. I can give you 10 examples of this, right? Yes. It is painful because Canadians, we have been warned. We know what can happen. People can end up with an authoritarian regime like the US. Yep. They are disappearing people to a horrible torture prison in El Salvador. They are making colleges change what they do or lose their funding. And the Supreme Court said, no, this whole disappearing strangers without any kind of due process isn't good, can't happen. Are they even going to follow that? So my point is, when we can laugh at Poilievre and his stupid crowd size and his other garbage that he's doing, but really, we've seen where this leads, right? So I don't want anyone, and I got a text message on the weekend threatening my life in the most creepy MAGA weird way. Yep. And I'm just telling you folks, this shit is real. This shit is in Canada. And I'm not suggesting that Poilievre's team had anything to do with threatening me, but I'm telling you, there is a very, very dark fascist movement that is adjacent or part of MAGA in this country. Yep. And we've seen some of it. We see a lot of it online, but I'm letting you know, we get one shot, Douglas, one shot to stop it here. And I heard from an American yesterday who said, I'm so jealous that your country still gets to vote.
Yeah. Yep, indeed. You have to listen, I understand with Pierre, right? There's a lot of stuff going on, right? The thing with Edmonton that really caught me, and I think that you as a communication strategist and who's knowledgeable of politics will agree with me here, and you'll know what I'm talking about when I say it. Stephen Harper, right? There's a lot of people like, oh God, PM Voldemort again, why are they trotting him out? Can he stay gone? You have to remember that in that circle, he's a star. Yeah. He's Big Daddy. He's the only one that brought this revamped version, what they call conservatism, but actually isn't, to the promised land of a majority once. They worship him. They love him. The rest of us can't understand what they see in him, but they love him because they brought him to the promised land. They're trotting Harper out in Alberta, where they will have lots of people. And Angus Reid, I think on that day or the next day, said that in terms of favorability in the province of Alberta, Pierre is running at +1, a net +1. So if you're running net +1 in Alberta as a conservative and have to trot out Harper before the midway part to get a big crowd that you lie about, subsequently we find out, how bad is your campaign actually going? Harper was not brought in to rally the people in. He was brought in to perform CPR on a dying campaign. You don't bring out the leader that early. The elder statesman leader who won the big prize that early. If you are not glub drowning.
Brilliant. You are brilliant. And couldn't be more right. I mean, when I saw everyone freaking out, ooh, he has this massive crowd size, I said a couple of things. One, yes, he does. We should take seriously that he can get crowds. He's not completely without a base. Two, watch the polls, but don't believe them to the point where you don't think you need to vote, because this is not a done deal ever, Canada.
Polls are fuel, not comfort.
That's right. They're fuel, not comfort. Exactly. But you know what can happen is that people can see it's happened in other elections. They think that their candidates got it in the bag, so they don't bother to show up. So that don't fall for that, Canada. And I love
especially this time. Because this time we need high voter turnout to show the United States that no, this is not a 59% participation election.
Right.
This is like the biggest one that we've had recently, 72% in 1992. We need to beat that.
Yes.
Just say, you know what? Nobody. We're not doing this.
Let's get over 80% of Canadians out, and let's give Carney a super mandate like he got from the Liberal Party. I mean, he absolutely crushed the Liberal leadership race. It wasn't even close. What did you get, like 72, and Chrystia got 8?
86 or something. It was
or 86. Like he crushed it. There was no contest. And so let's do that again with this. So when I saw all that stuff with Poilievre in Edmonton, like I said, my first thing was, this guy can still get crowds. I still hear from a lot of his people. Some of them are bots, but some of them are real. And he also, has a big war chest. The polls are trending one way, but they seem almost unbelievable. So just get out your signs and get out to vote. And as an OShow viewer said, and I've made it into a meme and it's getting, other people are sharing it now, polls and projections don't win elections. Vote. Right? Polls and projections don't win elections. You have to vote. This is the most consequential election in Canada's history, because this is the first time where our existence is under threat from the most powerful country in the history of the world. Right. I mean, we might be looking at all the craziness going on with tariff gate and all the other garbage that Trump is doing and all the noise and think that, we're okay. He hasn't mentioned the 51st state since he talked to Carney. Well, you know what? When Carney wins, hopefully Carney wins and they get to the table, they can get rid of these auto tariffs and get rid of these steel and aluminum tariffs, and we can go on to a good existence. But there's just as much possibility that we're going to get a crazy Ivan out of Trump and we're going to be back to this 51st state garbage. So Canada, do not take a breath. This is not the time to take a deep breath. This is the time to run as fast as you can until your lungs hurt to get everyone to the polls. All right? We can take a breath on April 29th. Trust me. If Carney wins, I'll be fetting that for like a week. I got lunches planned. I got parties planned. I'll be having a good time just because this thing is over. It's also because hopefully we have staved off an authoritarian takeover of our country.
Yes.
Right?
I'll get my hair done. Check my nails. Baby, how I'm feeling. Feeling good as hell. But what you're saying is absolutely true here. And this is what, again, with polls, right? I always say this on the show, right? Polls tell you where you have been. They do not tell you where you are going. You don't look at any individual poll. Look at the aggregators. Don't look at any individual week. Look at the trend line over a certain number of weeks at a time. Polls can be useful if you know how to consume them. Forget the top line number. You always have to remove 2 or 3 from the top line number for the Conservatives, because in Alberta and Saskatchewan, because when you only need 38% to win, but you get 72, all that additional vote adds to the top line number, but doesn't give you more seats. And in this particular election, because the bottom has fallen out from the NDP and a little bit from the Bloc, you also have ineffective Conservative vote in all the urban areas in British Columbia. And the 22% that they're scoring in Quebec is going to yield them very little seats. So you probably have to take another 2% off there. The Conservatives are going to have to do so much in the last few weeks in order to be able to close that gap at the moment. Now, it's not saying that it's in the bag, right? You don't say it's in the bag, but you look at that number and you say, you know what? It looked like we were going nowhere. It looked like we were going to be buried. And now it looks like we have a chance to win this thing. It's not a time to put your hands on the back of your head and your feet back up on the coffee table and say, they've got this. The NDP is counting on that. If you've seen, they've been switching their rhetoric and they're trying to say, they're hoping that when the debate happens, Poilievre will get flattened And that the seat count for the Liberals will go from about 200 to 215 something. And then they say, okay, well, now Poilievre's going to win. NDP voters come back home.
Yeah, I mean, they can try that, but I think that's such a huge stretch that I don't even consider the NDP a factor in this, except for the fact that they're on the sidelines and that opens up the field for the Liberal seats. And I mean, we heard that from Ford's guy, right? Ford's guy's like, you got the Bloc and the NDP leaving seats on the table. I'm paraphrasing, but basically, when you got the Bloc and the NDP in Quebec ceding to the Liberal Party the way that these seats look like they're going. I mean, I was on CTV the night of the 2016 election, and when I saw Quebec go red after the Maritimes went red, I did an expletive, and they ran over and clipped me because they're like, I'm like this thing is in the bag before we even got through Ontario, you know? And I hope that was a Sunny Ways rejection of the Harper years and the cultural snitch line and the horrible old stock racist dog whistling that Harper was desperately doing. We rejected that garbage from Harper in 2016 in huge numbers. It was a red wave across the country. And you know what? We're still the same Canada that doesn't want authoritarianism. We don't want MAGA. We don't want our rights to be taken away as women. We do not want to see our speech being crushed down by bullies like we're seeing with MAGA and Trump in the US right now.
Right.
We don't want what they're doing in America. We don't want the oligarchy to take all our money. We don't want this fascist MAGA movement in Canada. And Pierre Poilievre is, if not fully MAGA Canada, he certainly has a huge chunk of his base who want Trump, who want to be the 51st state. So we need to stand up Canada like we never have before. Forget 2016 and the rebuke of Harper. Now we're looking at Harper and Poilievre and Trump's MAGA on the ballot. If we can't stand up now and say, no fucking way am I going to let these guys take over our country.
Yep. I'm like you. I have the same thing, and it's been a feeling I've had for a while. It's like too negative, too angry, too weird. NAW. Nah. I can't. Right? Problem with Pierre here is that the ballot question is leadership. And what kind of leadership is best to deal with Trump? What kind of leadership is the furthest away from Trump? Ballot question is sovereignty. Who's going to defend us? And pretty much at the moment, nothing else matters. Right? And you have Pierre Poilievre saying, I'm not MAGA, I'm Canada first, but he can't stop talking about Carney.
That's a MAGA tagline. But that's a MAGA tagline. America first, Canada first.
That's a KKK
rip off of MAGA.
It's a KKK tagline. It's actually borrowed from the KKK. Right? But you can't do that. You can't say, I'm not MAGA, I'm Canada first, and then keep on doing the things that remind everybody else of the guy that you claim that you are absolutely, most definitely, under no circumstances, exactly like. That interaction with Laura Stone reminds us of a lot of interactions of Trump with the media.
You mean don't be condescending to women? Don't brag about your crowd size? Right?
I'm going to cut foreign aid. I'm not aware of more than two genders. I mean, it's just over and over and over and over again. There's just so many echoes. And you, like I said, you cannot make us believe that you are Canada first if in this particular context, you keep on trying to convince Canadians that Mark Carney specifically and the Liberals are a bigger threat than is Donald Trump. Nobody's buying it.
Well,
nobody believes that the call is coming from inside the House, from the Liberal side here.
Not only are we not buying it or any of the other crazy conspiracies that he pumps out, like this WEF crap and all this other stuff, we know that Mark Carney is competent. We know he's a serious leader. I'm a business owner. I value results over bullshit. I value success over ambition.
Right.
I want a leader who can get it done, who doesn't just yell and tilt at windmills, who actually gets it done. And we have watched Mark Carney getting it done. We watched for the 9 days before he asked for the campaign.
Yep.
Did a ton in 9 days. We've watched the
Yes.
last month of the campaign. I mean, he has kept Canada in such an enviable position that even though we were under threat from Trump, and we still are, the rest of the world is talking about Carney as best practice for how to deal with a bully.
Right.
So this isn't even about anything else other than Carney has proved that he can get Trump to back down.
Yep.
And Poilievre has proven that he wants to be Trump. It doesn't get more clear than that, and Canadians are not stupid. We're not stupid.
Right. Because unlike the Conservative, the party that we are looking at has not told us to deny the evidence of our eyes and ears. Right? So the thing with Carney as well, and I think I mentioned this on the previous show, is this: what if all along Canadians weren't all that into PR Conservatives? They just wanted a nice, clean, respectable, confident, competent boy that they can bring home to mama. And no, they could leave him unsupervised with a pack of matches at night and he wouldn't burn the house down. And what we are seeing from Carney is we're seeing his repeated coming up to the camera and the microphone with calming, reassuring, affirming tone that doesn't tell us that we are weak, that doesn't tell us that we are broken, but that tells us, yeah, it's going to be hard. It's going to be a slog, but we're Canadians and we've done tough things before. And we can give ourselves, he says again, we can give ourselves more than anybody else can take away. And if we're smart about it, because not only can we emerge from this still whole as Canada, but we can position ourselves for a brighter future where we take on the world. Or you can vote for everything's broken and y'all suck. Vote for me. I'm the best you're going to get. I'm what you deserve. I mean, again, it's a battle. I mentioned earlier, it's going to be a battle of tone and countertone. Yes. And Pierre just does not have the proper tone for the moment. He does not.
You seen that clip that's being circulated from years ago in the Parliament, in the House of Commons, when that other MP,
Wayne Easter?
Yeah, he said
pigeon one.
Yeah, he's like basically doing politics or working with Poilievre is like playing, what was it, checkers with a pigeon, chess with a pigeon, where he flaps his wings, knocks everything over, takes a crap on the board, and then says he won the game. It's hilarious. You couldn't get a starker contrast than we have between Carney and Poilievre. And the thing is that Poilievre was great as this just punching constant yip 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 dog, right? And going after an attack dog. He's great at it. Good for him.
Yippy little chihuahua.
Yeah, and when you had Trudeau doing stuff that I objected to, I wanted Trudeau to step aside just on the housing file. You know, when he said housing wasn't a national responsibility, I'm like, then why do we have a national housing strategy? What are you talking about? You know, and now we see Carney coming up with a plan for 50,000 homes, wartime style.
500,000 a year.
500,000 a year. Sorry. I mean, like, so Carney's got these ambitious targets and plans for homes, brought Sean Fraser back into the fold for it. You know, so I wanted Trudeau to step aside. He'd had his time, helped us in the pandemic, time for him to go. I think
he was the right guy at the right time, but times have changed.
He was. And you know what? He got us away from the Harper darkness with his sunny ways, helped us through the darkness of the pandemic. And then he lost his touch with what was going on the ground. You know, so Poilievre had all the perfect attack points, and, you know, some of them resonated strongly. There was, who are you? I talked to so many people who are like, I can't vote for Trudeau, and I'm scared of Poilievre, and I don't think Singh is a leader. Who do I vote for, Laura? I heard that for a freaking year. And now, you know what I hear? Obviously, Carney. Like, we're lucky.
Again, as the friend.
This guy who's the best guy for the job in the world wants to run Canada. Right?
Yeah. And, you know, it's one of the criticisms that we get from our show, right? Because we say that we're nonpartisan. But for the last year and a half, we come across as very pro-liberal. But it's not because we're in the bag for liberals. It's that was out of the three major parties, there was only one adult in the room.
Right.
At some point, the choice imposes itself.
Right.
And we got a situation here with Carney. It's like we're at this specific time in our history, where the nation that was our closest ally is now our biggest competitor and an actual existential threat, is threatening to destroy our economy so that we can come crawling to him and just give him everything. And we have one guy that's saying, no, not on my watch. And you know what? Not only not on my watch, but hey, Canada, let's dream big.
You got it. And you know what I love? Just when you described Trump and you said our biggest ally, I want us to start just saying what's the truth. They were our protector, right?
Yes.
Like they were literally, they were more than our ally.
Yes.
We knew as a mouse we lived next to an elephant.
Right.
And we knew that as long as the elephant was a nice elephant, we'd be fine as the little mouse. But now the elephant is rampaging and we are going to get crushed. Any day we could wake up and find out that it's done for Canada. It's absolutely stressful and terrifying. It feels like the early days of COVID, truly, before we knew what it was. And if there was even a vaccine, we were afraid to even touch the packages on our porch.
Right.
So we are in a place where we don't know on a given day what our future is going to be. And we're terrified, and we should be. We are terrified. And then we have Poilievre, who we are petrified of, to use Ford's guy's comment, because he represents an adjacency, even I hope not subservience, but as Carney said, if you worship Trump, you're not going to stand up to him. You're going to, like, Poilievre's going to kneel, right? I'm paraphrasing, but so we're terrified of Poilievre. But when you just now talked about Carney's approach and that we have him on this, like I actually exhaled a bit, because I think that's what Carney's doing for Canada. Our protector is now threatening harm on us. And then comes Carney and he's like, well, I know how to do this and love Canada. And I'm going to protect us, and not just protect us, but make it so that we're so freaking strong. We don't have to worry about this in the future. I mean, how is that not an 80% vote message in this country right now?
Right. It's so simple. I've seen this before. I know how this ends. Don't worry. I got you.
Right. And
that's what we want right now.
I know, and he actually is leveraging. I mean, I don't know if Carney had anything to do with the bond markets and Canada's U.S. treasuries, and whether or not he was doing a little bit of a Trump. You're not as strong as you think you are out there. But he certainly mentioned that he would get leverage on the U.S. Right?
Yes. Well, prior to that, I think all this happening, I think Canada sold like $3.5 billion of bonds that everybody snatched up, and it seems that provinces have done the same, and they've snatched them up. So when you send that message early on, it's like, we're selling some bonds. That sends a big international message. And the thing with Mark Carney that you have to understand, it's one of the things I said about Trudeau. One of the things one of the arguments for keeping him was that he was the elder statesman of the progressive and democratic countries around the world. He had been around the longest. He had a lot of clout. Mark Carney is the new guy on the block now, so you'd think we'd fall off the ranks. But because Mark Carney was the governor of the Bank of Canada and the governor of the Bank of England at two particularly critical times, this guy comes in with so much cred, and all the people in the EU and Australia and whatnot, these are all people he's dealt with before. He knows them. He knows the players. They all know that they got him through. They have so much respect for him that we didn't actually, even though he's not the dean in terms of time, he's the guy that's leading, right? When he made that first intervention, that there would be like no face-to-face conversations or in-person conversations with Trump until he would respect us. And here's where we're going to fight back, and we were not going to back down and do the reciprocal tariffs. A lot of people say, well, where are all these other countries by our side? And they were keeping their powder dry. But now look, all of a sudden, the mistake that Donald Trump made, the critical mistake, is he decided to fight a war on 180 different fronts all at once. We knew he was going to do this. Danielle Smith, of all people, should have known he was going to do this. Mark Carney sure did know. So we set the example, we set the tone. Other people didn't jump in yet. Then more tariffs came, and then other people saw, hey, maybe we should do the same thing. China in particular seemed to think that it was a good idea to retaliate. And now all of a sudden we've got Trump turn around and go, hey, all the other countries, it's just the 10% base thing. And Now he's got his trade war with China that he really, really wanted, except I don't think he banked on China. Saying, hey, you know what? You were raising us another 50%, then fine, we'll raise you another 50% to 84. Well, then it'll be 125. And then he's in front of the cameras. Well, China really wants to make a deal. They just don't know how to get out of it. No, that's you. Again, you're talking about you. You got yourself in trouble and you don't know how to get out of it.
So Canada has a choice between the guy who literally has his signature on our money because he's so good at managing the economy, and the guy who is bragging about his crowd size, who has only run a paper route and been an attack dog who's accomplished nothing in the legislature in 25 years or whatever on the public dime. So we've got the guy who signs our money in an economic war, and the guy who brags about his crowd sizes and lies about his crowd sizes, like inflates it by 10%. Yeah. So who do we want? A guy who's inflating his crowd size, or a guy who signed our dollars and kept us out of an economic crash back in 2008? It's
Again,
Carney.
Laissez-pose.
Right. So
the choice is obvious.
It's obvious. It's got to be Carney. We know that. Maître chez nous. We want to run our own affairs. We want to make this country all it can be, unify our economy, all the things that Carney is doing and all he's doing to manage the U.S. I mean, if it's not even, doesn't even have to be about his giant resume versus Poilievre's tiny little resume. I mean, Carney's resume is huge and Poilievre's is tiny. It's not even about that.
About size.
Yeah. Since size is so important to Poilievre, not even about the size of the resumes. It's about the results of the leadership. Poilievre has achieved nothing in his life, and except to become a leader because he's a great attack dog. Carney's actually kept Canada out of the worst of the 2008 financial crisis. He helped the Bank of England during the Brexit mess, and now he's in Canada. And so far, the world thinks he's the best guy for dealing with Trump. He's top dog. He's putting Canada not just at the table, he's leading the table. He said, we'll lead the world if the U.S. is going to throw off the mantle of leadership. He broke up with the U.S. He
That's
said,
a historic statement right there. That's a historic statement. If the United States won't lead, we will.
That's right.
That's game-changing history right there.
It was picked up around the world. Yeah. And when you talk about China, because I mean, I take this tariff stuff seriously. I used to run a Chamber of Commerce. I know how devastating this still is with the aluminum and the steel and the jobs in Hamilton and other places around the cars. I'm not making light, and we're still in a big mess. Yes. 10% across the board tariffs on the U.S. economy is a 10% tax on every single item that the Americans buy. Yeah. You make it 100%, 140% on China. That means that everything that they're buying in the U.S. is going to cost what? More than double? I mean, like, correct me on the math, Douglas, but it's
and the U.S. buys 3 to 4 times more from China than China buys from the U.S. because the United States has all this disposable income.
That's right.
So China's not
hence the trade inequities, because the U.S. has the market and the other countries supply that giant gluttonous market of American consumers. And so that's why. So Trump not even understanding that. He's still like caught in the 1980s, afraid of the Japanese economy buying up landmarks in New York City. Like he hasn't evolved from the 80s. And
as Trump would put it, you don't have the cards.
Yeah, right. Well, it looks like he can't play the game, like at all. And as Anthony Scaramucci said, who of course worked for Trump and regrets it deeply, he's a top banker guy in New York. And he said, you know what? He's not a banker, hedge fund, whatever. Scaramucci said, like, Trump doesn't understand the culture of Canadians or rural people in China. He's like, in Canada, they go out on frozen bodies of water. They fall through the ice. They get themselves out and they're all fine. He goes, I wouldn't want to mess with a country like that. Right? You know, like, we're not going to back down. Hence, elbows up. And the whole world is adopting it. Greenland has an elbows up hashtag, right? You know?
Yeah. And here's the thing that's going to happen, because I know that our time is coming up. The debates are the next big moment, right? So we're probably going to be in a lull for a couple of days because everybody's in debate prep spending a couple of times. So they're probably going to be small little policy announcements or take twos on announcements that were made before that didn't quite get the attention. Like Mark Carney came back and re-announced some more housing policy because the day of his first housing announcement was the day of the Paul Chang thing and he lost some of the message. So we'll probably get some of that. But Pierre, everybody's talking about his like immense debate prowess, and he has a problem now because he was planning to go into that debate leading Trudeau by so much and then just stand there and play statesman for a little bit and then just get through, deliver 1 or 2 lines and then just go. You've got members of the Indigenous community reminding everyone of Pierre's famous quote on the day of the residential schools apology that Indigenous people don't need to be compensated for Canada doing terrible, terrible things to it. They just need to learn the value of hard work. And implied in that statement is that people like Pierre would be the ones to teach them what that value of hard work is. And we're in an ironic situation where Pierre, although he does work hard, he was voted by his peers as being the hardest worker in Parliament. It turns out he worked very hard at all the wrong things.
His record is gross. I mean, if you want to look at a large thing of Poilievre, if there is one, it's not his crowd size and it's not his resume. It is the votes that he has taken. The list of the votes he's taken over the last 20 years is another reason why Canadians are petrified of Pierre Poilievre. Thank you so much, Douglas, for being on the pod. I'm in final planning to have Bruce Banjoy on the pod. He's running directly against Poilievre, right?
Yes.
And also a guy from Alberta. I promised our Alberta audience who is loving the OShow that I'd get someone from Alberta. So I'm hoping to do that early next week. And then the Scandal Panel is back next Friday. Woo!
Yay, Scandal Panel.
Yay!
I love the Scandal
Panel
Panel.
back. So have a wonderful weekend, week, whatever, how long until I see you again, Canada. Please subscribe. Let's hit 5,000 subs. You don't want to miss the next OShow that's going to come up, especially during this election. And of course, True North Beaver podcast, True North Eager Beaver. Follow them.
That's me.
Love them. They're great. You can listen to Douglas. You've got a very calming, not quite Carney calm, but you've got a very soothing, melodious kind of tone. Mellifluous? I'm trying to think of the word.
Mellifluous.
It's lovely to listen to you. So start your days with the Eager Beaver and then get fired up with the OShow. And please get your signs on your lawn. Thank you for all of you who sent me sign photos, one woman said she waited with the sign in her garage, then put it out, afraid of her neighbors, and then she saw red pop up around the neighborhood. Another woman said she's rubbing alcohol when she goes for her runs to wipe off the graffiti on other Liberal signs in her neighborhood. I mean, come on, Canada. 2 more weeks of this stuff or less, whatever it is, elbows up. And make sure you tell your neighbors this is an obvious choice. Let's let the guy who signs our money take care of our economic war that we're in, not the guy who lies about his crowd size. All right. Thanks so much, Douglas. You're the best. Take care.
Bye, everyone. Thanks for joining.
Au revoir. We'll see you soon.
When you care about current affairs, it's on the OShow. And when you want to get clear what's going on here, it's on the OShow. If you like to stay in the know, tune yourself into the OShow. It's the OShow. Laura Babcock's the OShow. With a lot of great guests, she puts them to the test on the OShow. There's no doubt they'll be calling them out on the OShow. Stand for something or fall for it all. Ontario, hear the call on the OShow. It's a podcast, the OShow. Laura Babcock's the OShow. Stay informed with the OShow, OShow.
Your merch bin.